Hey, X here. Let's talk about success for a minute. The keys to success are integrity, always learning. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Peter Exodus O'Coffer, and we are on episode 7 of the personal branding podcast, Level Up. And this episode, we're going to be looking at branding for writers. And so, I'm a big arts guy. I write. I do music. I'm also going to do one for visual artists. And this can also help if you're a small business owner in some ways. But I want to, just throw some ideas out there for the creative folks out there. Now, on the next 3, again, this is writers. Next one will be visual artists. And the episode after that will be musicians and musical acts. I'm putting part 1 on all of them because I want to revisit the topics as I, run across and have conversations with various artists. I want to keep revisiting this topic because it is important, and I want to do everything I can to help my fellow artists. Either today or yesterday, I ran across a meme that I saw on Facebook probably a month or 2 ago, and I wanted to screenshot it and forgot. Well, this meme popped up again, and I'm glad. It's by George Bernard Shaw, and it's a pretty short one, only 2 sentences. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. And that's a very powerful meme to me. I mean, that's kind of what this whole podcast is about. Often folks talk about I'm going to go off and find myself. And that's only half of the journey because that's finding your purpose. But, the other half and the important part is once you find your purpose, you have to prepare to follow that path and to fulfill that purpose. And so that's kind of what this meme does. So writers, very tough branding for writers. It's a very slow medium in that, compared to music. I mean, you can go viral with a 3.5 or 2.5 minute song. It takes a lot longer to get through a novel. And, one of the, at least in science fiction, they often tell you to try to get in collections and do short stories. But still getting through that collection of short stories can be time consuming. So it's a challenge, but I know some folks who've done it. One of my themes in the next 3 episodes will be to brand through your medium of art. Because it's one thing, your art and your whatever your brand or the image or whatever you're trying to do shouldn't be separate. What your brand is should be in your art. So a couple folks I think are really good at branding. Philip K. Dick, he uses these strange offbeat titles. And I think in season 3, I want to actually do Philip K. Dick and Kanye West, or Ye as he goes by now. Because I think, Ye is bipolar. Philip K. Dick had some mental health issues, and they kind of didn't run from these things in their art. They kind of wove it into their art, and Ye can be chaotic at times. You watch him like, dude, what are you doing? But he doesn't shrink from his episodes. I have a whole song I did on my 3rd album, Cyberpunk 2020, called On Perspective, talking about Ye's meltdown and everybody's reaction, with Ye, meeting with Donald Trump. So, Ye makes a lot of mistakes, and some of them are pretty cringeworthy, but he steps back and then comes back and continues on and addresses his mistakes, and usually he apologizes. But Philip K. Dick, he had a couple things going on. His big theme through his works, a lot of it has to do with what is reality. He had a lot of good tie-ins, and of course, branding. If you're a writer, you can get someone to make a movie out of one of your books. That's the greatest branding you can get. And Philip K. Dick had a bunch of them. I mean, Blade Runner. Oh boy, it's just slip in my mind all the Philip K. Dick movies, but we'll revisit that in a minute. And George R. R. Martin was, is of course, famous for killing off his beloved characters. Sue Grafton, who did Mystery, she would have Al for Alibi, and then B for I don't know, Bastard. I don't know. She had a unique, catchy way of doing titles for her books. So, movies that you would be based off of Philip K. Dick that you might be familiar with. I already mentioned Blade Runner, and that was Philip K. Dick was alive when that was being worked on. I think he passed away just before it opened, and I assume he got to see at least a rough cut of the film. But Total Recall, Minority Report, A Scanner Darkly, and then Amazon Prime's The Man in the High Castle are all based on Philip K. Dick books. And they all, A Scanner Darkly is probably, for the hardcore Philip K. Dick fans, is probably the closest adaptation to his books. The Man in the High Castle. I read the book and saw the first season. I have to say, I liked the first season, but it was very different from the book, but it was still well done. And I don't have a problem with that as a writer. I leave, room for interpretation in case anybody ever wants to, take mine to movie or to television, because, you have to let an artist do some of their things too. So that's Philip K. Dick. He dealt with schizophrenia and autism and other things. And again, as I said earlier, he would write characters who actually kind of grappled with these issues as well. So, how do you, if you're a writer, what do you do to get your brand out there? Obviously, you have a personal website. You do lots of writing conventions and get on panels, book signings, do tables at conventions, and also book readings. So honestly, I've done some of these. I've done book readings. I've done tables at conventions. I have not done panels. I do think I'm a good enough writer. But it's a little political. I'm self-published, and most mid-level to high-level writers conventions don't kind of look down on self-published authors. So so I haven't done that yet. Also, there are authors who do podcasts on writing. And that is, you will attract other writers, but you're also in that process, kind of piggybacking or attaching your brand onto another brand. Because if they, I know I've listened to podcasts by groups of other writers, sometimes one up to four, and if I like how they sound in a podcast, I will purchase and read their book. Just out of support and whatever they've shared with me. So, you need to, whatever themes that make you unique, um, in your work, and try to get some consistent themes like Philip K. Dick. And, when you make your public appearances, highlight, these themes that you like to bring out in your book. I mean, most writers have natural themes that come out, and that's just kind of how writing is. Sometimes you don't plan it. You're like, wow, I keep going back to this theme. Well, that should, that's part of your brand. That's why you're writing. That's, what you're trying to express. And, it's not always explicit or conscious. So I know when I go back and look at my work, sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that, this was a theme here. And of course, the English departments and universities across the country and the world, they that's what they focus on, themes. And they will find themes, bad and sometimes good. So, if you're a writer, how do you use social media? Well, talk about the writing process, where you're at, what you like to do. Some do outlines, others do not. Talk about other books in the genre that you like. Talk about TV shows and movies in your genre that you like. And, I don't forget to drop in some personal posts that have nothing to do with writing. Um, and again, I touched on this a few minutes ago, but podcasting and writing podcasts. The other thing is writers, the successful writers with good brands that I know, they are very good at attaching their brand to others, and not many have done this. Or when they do this idea I'm about to bring up, they don't attach their own brand to it. But one of the things is to there's a lot of fan podcasts out there for movies or TV series. So if you're a fan of a show and it's in your genre, um, do a podcast on that, with others, or even yourself, and uh, put your writer glasses on, or at some point, not to be a jerk and make it look bad, because you're gonna piss the fans off, but kind of you know uh, pop the hood of the car, and go under the hood to show them why things work, and think, with dialogue and the writing and the story of the show. So not many have done that. I do have a few writer friends who do popular culture stuff, but they don't really. They're more you know, fans than fans/artist in this. Another way to increase your visibility and your brand as a writer is, as you do get a following, have a contest for visual artists, drawers, and painters to actually do your characters and to get their interpretation. I know some writers who are pretty big and are also tend to be independent. Do these contests, and they'll put them on their social media. And do T-shirts with your book covers. One of the things I find interesting about the publishing industry, particularly with the publishers, is they every 2 or 3 years they change the covers of all their book titles, which is interesting because it's the total opposite in music. Um, I mean, how many people have the iconic Prince Purple Rain T-shirt, or the Pink Floyd The Wall T-shirt? I mean, you look at every single Pink Floyd T-shirt, and it's either The Wall or the Prism, or something from the Dark Side of the Moon album. Look at the Beatles. I mean, there's a lot of Beatles T-shirts based on their album covers. The famous one being Abbey Road, but other ones. I mean, there's other Beatles without the the album covers. But the album covers, I mean, branding is a visual medium, when it comes to artists. And so it's always interesting that you know book publishers change the covers of books so easily and so readily and so often. So I guess, that's one of the things I will not do as a self-published and independent published. I'm not gonna, kind of pick my covers very carefully and will stick with my covers. One of the things that I've been to a lot of writers conferences is, if you're with a publisher, the writers have very little say to none in the cover, so it's interesting, and they swap it up. And I've talked to fellow authors before, like, well, that's interesting. Look what the new cover is, or look what the cover the publisher came up with. So they have their reasons. Publishing, they change very slowly, with the times, though. So, 10, 15 years ago, they were still running on a model from the 1930s and 40s. And with print on demand, they had to change that model somewhat, but there's still a lot of their model of publishing is still very old. Probably the best way to build your brand as a writer is to actually form alliances with other writers and kind of attach your brand to other writers. It's about just writing is a very small world, whatever genre you're in. I mean, if you're science fiction, fantasy, there's really, honestly, a couple hundred, 300 to 500 authors. It's probably the same with mystery authors. It's even smaller, probably, for horror authors. And so, it behooves you, to as you meet authors, to be cool. And, if you like their work, promote them. And hopefully they'll promote you. If you think their work is so-so, because, writing is very subjective. I mean, value the friendship and, promote what works you can for them. But, don't be that person who's, they're overrated or whatever. And, different strokes for different folks, and they're successful for a reason. So respect the success. And then again, it is a very small world in the writing world. And if you get in a position, mentor up and coming writers, because you don't know where they'll end up. And if you let them attach their brand to yours and they blow up, then they're gonna let you attach your brand to their brand. So a couple other things. I know in science fiction, fantasy, one of the big points of emphasis they say for up and coming writers is to do short stories. I didn't do that. Because I started off writing novels, and ironically enough, the series I am writing, shifts heavily into doing short stories. So I skipped that, and can I go back and do short stories? Maybe. But there's a reason for everything, and I kind of like what I'm doing as a writer. And then the other big way to really get out there is to get on BookPub and some of the other daily ebook deals. There's a bunch of people can sign up for ebooks, and I don't know. There's about 10 to 15 of them, and usually the books are 99 cents, when you go in and do a sale. And, you can get a lot. You won't make much money off a 99-cent sale. You might make 20 cents or 30 cents. But it gets you out there, and it gets eyes on your books, and it starts talk. The drawback of getting on BookPub and all these, and the Daily Beast and some of these other mailing list that people sign up for is that you still have to, the algorithm of getting considered is based on the ratings, how many people rate you, and what your rating is on. It's either Kindle or Goodreads. I can't remember. So they're all kind of based on that. So you have to have a brand already to get there and to boost your brand. Some of them you have to have at least 10 or 15 um, ratings, and that sounds easy, but most people don't rate books. And I think kind of the king of all those ebook blasts kind of things is book bub, and that's, I think it takes 100, the last I heard, to get considered for that one. So yeah, so those are the basics of getting uh, right now that I know of getting publicity for writers. So a little bit about my journey into writing fiction. In the late '80s and early '90s, I got the bug to do music. Well, I had the bug before. Music is kind of my first love, and I kind of ran out of, for a variety of reasons. By the mid '90s, have kind of stepped away from music and started writing. Um, I started in writing in the mid '90s, and I've honestly the writing wasn't good, and most writing's not good in the beginning. And I just kept at it and reading and learning and writing and I started doing. Uh, I don't know, maybe 2010, 2012, 2013 is when I started going to some of the writing conferences, I believe. And finally felt comfortable enough, got an editor who I met at a writer's conference. And my first novel came out in 2016, What Burns Below. My second novel came out in 2018. Um, and I do write science fiction fantasy. Tough genre to write in because you don't. Most fiction you have characters. You have to build good characters and have a good plot, and you know, follow the basics of a good plot. But in science fiction fantasy, you also have to world build, and you have to have something to say. Explicitly something to say where you can, and that's why most fantasy and science fiction authors, I mean, um, are usually in their early 40s when they put out their first book. I was actually much older. I was in my, I think it was 48 when I put out my, in late 40s when I put out my first book. The one difference is for YA, young adult readers. Younger authors can do pretty good YA in the science fiction fantasy genre. There's a few writers who, break out in their late 30s with their first science fiction fantasy novels, and they're exceptional. So the science fiction fantasy authors are those striving to be. Just be patient and write. It is a hard genre. You do need some seasoning and some just to live a little to really write at the depth of what most people want in the science fiction fantasy book. So just be patient with yourself and keep at it. Um, so why did I self-publish? Well, first of all, I mean, again, I've been to a lot of science fiction fantasy writers conferences, and they want you to be either science fiction or fantasy, and my series doesn't do that. I mean, 360 Earths, half of them are science based, half are magic based. So half of the time, my book is either in fantasy or it's in science fiction, or it's a blend of the two. And you know, book publishers say, well, that's not easy. It's easier to market if it's one or the other. Well, you know, and it's a lot easier to self-publish. So I just, decided I'm not going to fight that fight. This is my vision of the work. I'm going to, write it and self-publish it, and what happens happens. The other thing is, after writing the first book, What Burns Below, I kind of got the sense early on that I was going to move away from really doing novels and a lot of the future books, and it'll be a series of short stories, which nobody does that. The closest thing would be George R. R. Martin edits a series called Wild Cards, which takes place around World War II and about people who get emerging superpowers. And the caveat compared to me is that there's a variety of different writers. So these are anthologies essentially with a lot of different writers writing on their characters. And last I heard, there's 8, 9, 10 volumes, and the same authors come back and write for their characters. So the story keeps going on that way. It would have been hard because they, to sell that to a publisher. They're like, yeah, but you're not George R. R. Martin, and he has a lot of different authors doing this. As far as my writing style, there's two different writing styles. There's the plot-driven, the outliners, and then there's the organic writers. And most writers are plot-driven. I'm the opposite. I kind of like to follow my characters. I spend a lot of time with my characters, and I do some outlining. I might outline 3 or 4, 5, 6 scenes ahead. Sometimes I know the end of the story. Sometimes I don't. But I like to be surprised. To me, if I know everything that's going to happen, that takes all the fun out of it. So that's kind of my writing style. So to briefly go back now, who I said earlier, I'm a self-publisher. So what self-publishers have been successful? A lot of the most successful self-publishers, I tend to like a lot of the good self-publishers because they genre blend a lot more than most, like I do, more than a lot of the writers that are on. Signed to book publishers. A lot of them came of age between 2010 and 2012 when ebooks really blew up. So they got on the Kindle platform. There wasn't a lot of people there. Ebooks started in 2007, and really when those early adopters, from that 2010, 2012, they really got some big fan bases and that have stuck with them, and they're doing very, very well today. Now it's hard because there's so many people, all doing very good work as self-published authors. I mean, the knock against self-published authors is, well, the quality isn't good. Well, now you can't tell, the difference between a self-published and a regular published novel because of print on demand, and it is so good. And with websites like Fiverr, has inexpensive editors and copy editors, you can really get a good polished work pretty inexpensively, and get professional covers through Fiverr too that are indistinguishable from a book that comes out with a publisher. So yeah, that's my story as a writer. So, do I have any regrets when it comes to my writing career? No, because I did the best I could at the time, and I just think my writing's a little different, and I have to take a different approach to do it right and to be true to the vision that I have. So I do have 2 novels, What Burns Below, Journey Through the Earths, and then a novella called Salvation Road. And this is all on Amazon. And the reason why I went with just Amazon, because Amazon has tools, promotion tools on there, which I've tried using. They're okay. It's not the best, but it's better than no promotional tools. And if to go on all the platforms, Amazon essentially says you have to have your book exclusively with us to use our promotional tools. And so I made that choice to do that. No regrets there, really, even though I haven't had a whole lot of luck with the promotional tools, which you can always go back and try again. And they change those algorithms. Not being on iBooks is not the best, with Apple, but some of these other ones like Kobo and whatnot have fallen off anyway. So that's the reason I went exclusively Amazon. At the time, Smashwords was one of the book distributors for ebooks that you could get on all of the platforms. I guess there's more than just Smashwords now. So not really a whole lot of regrets. It's interesting. I started off writing novels and then, went into short stories. If I would have started the other way around, short story to novel, I probably would have taken the traditional approach when it comes to science fiction writers and gotten into some of the these edited volumes of short stories where a lot of folks do that. And I know a lot of writers who've done that, and I probably could have done that, but that, I guess, wasn't the path I was meant to take. So, again, not really a whole lot of regrets there. So, I'm going to end, when I did my first album, I did not have a strong basis in personal branding. But I knew that I needed to link my music with my writing to try to get some cross branding there. So this song is off of my first album, Book One, and it's called Dispatches from Dystopia, and it has a very sci-fi feel to the lyrics and even to the sound a little. So enjoy, and I will see you next episode. Humans no longer fight wars, we fight with machines. Diseases eradicated, manipulate the genes. Government is impotent, corporations rule the scene. The masses have no work, they're hungry. The 1% rules supreme. Calling all rebels, heed my advice. Calling all rebels, it's time to pay the price. Calling all rebels, heed my advice. Calling all rebels, it's time to pay the price. Supersonic scientific advancement left most behind. If you're bored or you're stuck in time, computers and machines took most of the jobs. Ghosts and machines take what the system robs. Calling all rebels, heed my advice. Calling all rebels, it's time to pay the price. Calling all rebels, heed my advice. Calling all rebels, it's time to pay the price. Rebel hearts, rebel minds. Too many have died, too many are suffering. We cannot and will not answer violence and hate with more violence and hate than the tradition of God. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, Bayard Rustin, Ella Baker, Daisy Bates, Diane Nash, James Lawson, Alda Morris, the Highlander Folk School, and Congressman John Lewis. We affirm nonviolence. We will achieve change. Calling all rebels, heed my advice. Calling all rebels, it's time to pay the price. Calling all rebels, heed my advice. Calling calling all rebels, it's time to pay the price. It's now or never. Your future awaits. It's time to step up. Liberation calls. Guide and protect us as we march to right these wrongs. Please open up the eyes and hearts of our adversaries to your light and glory. Lord, help them see that peace is the only way. Lord, please show them that to have peace, P-E-A-C-E, you need peace, as in P-I-E-C-E. Lord, everyone should have a piece of the pie. We all need a stake in the system. If we're all invested in the system will survive, and all boats will rise. Lord, please show them the way. Lord, please illuminate this simple truth. Lord, thank you for your guidance, love, and strength. Amen.